Let's begin. Welcome, welcome. So beautiful to have you all here. Thank you for joining in, and I see you're continuing to join in, which is great. Welcome to our reinitiated Ayurveda and trauma healing workshops. So thank you for your patience with me over the winter season. I just went into my regular hibernation. I never quite know how long it's going to be, but that time of withdrawal is so rich and really provided me with some rejuvenation to my whole being, but also some insights of things that I really wanted to start teaching all of you and sharing with all of you and supporting you all with in this new year, 2022. So today will be the first of a monthly series. So make sure that you mark your calendars for the first Wednesdays of each month, same time. There'll be probably some changes with whenever daylight savings hits, and different countries and regions have different calculations for that. But we'll always be meeting in my same time zone, 10 a.m. Pacific, the first Wednesday of each month. And as long as you're on our registration page, that all of you who are here on it, but in case you're watching the recording, if you go to alicialyndiaz.com and click the button that says trauma healing or workshops, there's a registration and you'll get all the dates, times, and it'll always be the same Zoom login for the live session. And as long as you're registered and on that list, you'll also get the recordings sent to your inbox as well as additional just teachings and letters and wisdom insights that my teachers have handed down to me to really heal on a very deep level. And so the focus of these workshops and today's workshop will be to dive into the intersection of Ayurveda and emotional, psychological, and spiritual healing. Really, in the ancient ways, none of those, there is no intersection. It is just all one. But because our current understanding in the Western world around health, it tends to be fairly fragmented. So then we need to say, okay, we're going to bring all these very important pieces back together and treat ourselves and the people that, if you're a practitioner, the people that we work with, our clients, as a whole entity. And you'll come to find that the spiritual piece and the mental, emotional piece is a vitally integral part of healing physically and supporting the whole human organism to thrive. And we'll break down some of those nuances. So today we have a lot to cover. We're going to do a really comprehensive overview on specifically what I wrote up for this class, specifically around healing chronic pain, chronic illness, those stubborn symptoms that we tend to hit dead ends with when we go the routes of Western medicine or even most holistic modalities. I say holistic in air quotes because even more natural therapies still miss this. And so I really want to use to unlock deeper understanding, and this lens of Ayurveda, this ancient over 5,000-year-old medical tradition from India, gives us these insights of really how the biology, the emotional body, the psychological mental body, how the spirit and all are very deeply interwoven. And if you are experiencing stubborn symptoms, digestive problems, excessive exhaustion, fatigue, triggerable emotions like a hypervigilance in your nervous system, digestive challenges that are very stubborn, random moving stubborn pains that are just constantly in different parts of your body and seem to not make sense to you or your practitioners. If you are experiencing, like, you're maybe aware or have an inclination towards feeling like there was some trouble in your childhood that you think might be impacting your current state of emotional, psychological, or physical thriving, then you're in the right place, because we're going to be covering all these things. Also, just like challenges sleeping usually show up in these kinds of complexes when the mind starts to relax and the nervous system starts to kind of sink in and surrender. Sometimes it can create a hypervigilance, something that anxiety or that underlying trauma or challenge can hijack the nervous system in times of relaxation. And it can also hijack the nervous system in any situation that even subtly resembles whatever that initial trauma was. And so you find yourself not feeling like yourself in many different scenarios, interactions, socially, interpersonally, out there in the world, maybe with your work. So there's a lot of different ways these can show up, but you're in the right place if any of what I just said speaks to you. These workshops are also, and these topics are going to be very, very supportive for people who identify as an empath, people who identify as a highly sensitive person, highly sensitive nervous system. And so yeah, these topics in this workshop today, as well as each month, will touch upon things to help you resolve, feel safe in your body, resolve those traumas, resolve whatever physical symptoms have manifested as a result, and will help you feel safe and really at home in your body. And that was my story too, and that's why I'm here. I went down all the roads of dead ends and just feeling super exhausted and in a lot of pain all the time. And I finally found these tools, wisdoms, and insights and perspectives around truly transforming that relationship within. And I've been helping people now for over a decade in a one-on-one setting, in a group healing setting, to help empower them the tools as well through this practice. So we're going to start today. I'm glad you feel like you're in the right place. Thank you for sharing, Paul and Sue. I love the synchronicities coming in. And Sue also said, we're offering our learnings today for the healing of Indigenous trauma in this land. That is huge. And that's a topic I'd like to get into as well. There are so many different levels of trauma. There's the trauma that we experienced personally as an individual, and then there's intergenerational trauma, and then there's societal traumas, systemic trauma. So there are a lot of different layers to it. So thank you for bringing voice into that, Sue. We very much appreciate that. And this is also a place where all parts of you and all of you are welcome, no matter what your backgrounds, orientations are. This is a safe space for everyone, and everyone who's here must be in agreement with that. So we're gonna start today. After this introduction, let's dive into a little bit of an experiential practice. I like to open each session with that. So I'll guide you through a little bit of breath work, a mantra meditation breath, and I'll do a little meditation poem reading for a moment of silent contemplation. And then we'll dive into the educational materials and teachings. Jaina, I'm so delighted to see you here, and everyone else who's joined, Rebecca, Melissa, all of you. Thank you so much for being here and being present. Okay, so if you feel comfortable, you can close your eyes or you can direct your gaze downward just to support a little bit of an internal energy movement. And find a comfortable seat where you can roll your shoulders up, back, and down, releasing some tension out of the shoulders. And then press the shoulders down away from your ears. And take a few deep breaths, just sighing it out, flushing out any old stagnant energy built up in the lungs. And just do that in whatever way is most comfortable for you. Taking a deep breath in, opening the mouth and exhaling it out. Nice. One more. Very good. Now take another deep breath and just notice when you breathe in deeply, where does the air go? Which part of your torso moves, if any? Obviously, some part has to move. Is it up in your chest that moves? Does your chest puff up when you inhale? Like a Superman chest? Or does your belly move out? Lori says her belly moves out. Good awareness. Do your ribs move out to the sides? Take another deep breath and just notice. No judgment, just notice. Do you feel your back move at all? So everyone has an orientation towards where the breath naturally goes, the areas that are kind of open, softened, and then areas that are a little bit tight, or perhaps you've trained your breath already. But even if you've trained your breath on how to breathe fully and in most supportive way, when you're tense or disconnected from your body, you'll start to revert to the old pattern. So it's a reverse breather. You're considered a reverse breather if when you inhale, your chest puffs up and your belly sucks in. And very much our media we have to thank for what we think a human figure should look like. But when you inhale, now as we practice, try to allow your chest to be calm, and you can even place a hand on your chest and one hand on your belly. So allow the chest to remain calm and see if you can direct some of that energy into the lower hand, into the belly. So inhaling and feeling the belly expand. And the chest stays relaxed. And as you exhale, you feel that lower hand move towards the spine as your belly draws inward. And that expels the air out. And then as you inhale, the belly expands into the hand. Chest is still relaxed. Exhale, navel draws towards the spine, and everything contracts towards the spine around your belly. So as you continue, you should feel the belly relaxing, the ribs expanding to the sides, and even your low back to soften. So you can direct the energy to move forward to the sides and to the back of the lower region, belly region. And if at any point you ever feel lightheaded doing breath work, you just pause. But otherwise, continue with this gentle invitation for the prana, the life force, the energy of the belly to expand in all directions in the lower region. So take one moment of silence to just feel that without my chatting in your ear. And some people like to count just to set the pace. So it might be like this as you inhale: 1, 2, 3, 4, and exhale: 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause and inhale: 1, 2, 3, 4. Pause and exhale: 4, 3, 2, 1. So this is deep belly breathing, and it progresses to a 3-part breath, which you fill that lower belly, and then you slowly move up to the middle ribs and then up to the chest. So you can imagine filling your whole torso, front, back, side, side, like a pitcher of water. So when you fill that water, it goes from the bottom to the top. And then you empty that pitcher and it empties from top to bottom. So try that now this time. Filling on the inhale, filling lower belly, middle ribs, and chest. And exhaling, chest, ribs, lower belly. Inhaling, belly, ribs, chest. Exhaling, chest, ribs, and lower belly. And if you like, you can do it as 3 distinct breaths. In fact, I encourage trying it that way first. So sipping the air in into the belly, 1, ribs, chest. Exhaling, chest, ribs, belly. Doing at least 3 breaths like that. And if you feel like you're not getting enough air for any reason, just put a little cushion under the edge of your hips, and that will help tilt the pelvis forward, and it'll be easier to breathe deep. So one more time, sipping the air in 3 parts: belly, ribs, chest. Exhaling, chest, ribs, belly. Now let it be smooth. Just 3 more breaths here. Belly, ribs, chest, and chest. Exhale, ribs, exhale, belly. Smoothly. One more moment to finish up whichever breath you're on. And then take a moment of pause, just allowing the breath to be natural. And our third and final breath practice for today. So the first one was simply that deep belly breathing, which if you are a reverse breather, you want to just start with focusing on that as your daily practice. Then if you want to progress to the 3-part breath, there's the first version, sipping the air in 3 distinct segments, and then smoothly all the way up. And then the third one we'll do today is a variation of the humming breath. It's called the humming breath, the bee humming breath, but it's a variation of what yogis call the bee humming breath, Brahmari Pranayam. And we're going to do this in a very gentle, more gentle, accessible way for everyone, as the original practice is not always applicable in every situation, and I don't have the ability to personalize for everyone in a group setting. So with the humming breath, you're going to use the 3-part breath that we just did, and you're going to fully fill up the lower lobes, the middle, the upper, in those 3 parts. But then on the exhale, as you exhale from top to bottom, you're just going to exhale with the longest humming sound from your throat that you can make. It can be any tone that appeals to you, any note on the scale, but let it be one that's soothing, that you can feel resonating in your whole body. Your lips are closed, the teeth are apart, and the tongue presses to the roof of your mouth very gently. And it looks and sounds like this. So you're going to take a full deep breath in. I'll show you once and then I'll guide you. Then exhaling with a hum. And you'll make it as long as you can. So let's do 3 of those long breaths together. So everyone together now, exhaling all the air out. Drawing the navel towards the spine. Take a full deep inhale, all 3 parts nice and smooth. Inhaling belly, inhaling ribs, inhaling chest, and that at your own pace, 3 times, make a long humming sound on your exhale. Pause when you're done. Next, we'll transition into a mantra breath practice, which builds upon the practices that we just did. This mantra breath utilizes 3 sounds. The first sound is ha, H-A. The second sound is ri, R-I. And the third, O-M or A-U-M. Om is actually 3 sounds that are continuous and circular. Ah, oo, and And these 3 sounds, ha, ri, om, circulate the subtle energy through all the pathways in the body, create a calm, relaxed nervous system, and are syllables and words actually associated with the divine. And so It helps you connect your nervous system to the spiritual energies that are always guiding you, that are healing you, that are the source of your life and the source of your healing. And so we chant Hari Om with reverence and love, and in the same way that the most loving mother would chant to her child. So in that, you are chanting to your inner child in a soothing way, as if you are cradling him or her and just loving him or her, and just soothing them with this vibration. And so you can imagine that as we chant together. And it'll be very monotone, similar to your humming breath. You're just going to pick a tone that feels soothing for you. And you're just going to repeat it 3 times on the out breath. So exhaling the air out, and you can just follow along with me. Full deep breath in, exhaling with Hari Om. Hari Om. Hari Om. Hari Om. Let's do one more. Wow. At the end of the exhale, breath surrenders to quietude. For a moment, you hang in the balance, suspended in the fertile spaciousness that is the source of breath. At the end of the inhale, filled with the song of the breath, there is a moment when you are simply holding the tender mystery. In these interludes, experience opens into exquisite vastness with no beginning and no end. Embrace this infinity without reservation. You are its vessel. Kumbhitare chitavapi puritava yadabhavet tadante shantanamaso shaktya shanta prakashate. So during that mantra breath, Hari Om chant, I got the insight to give you a little homework, something that you can, a little bonus practice that you can do at home. So make a little note in your notebook to practice this mudra. This mudra is called a Bahaya mudra. Abhaya mudra. Abhaya mudra. And a mudra is a hand position that directs the energy pathways in your body. And bhaya in Sanskrit means fear, and abhaya means fearlessness. It's in front of the word bhaya is a negation. So it means no fear, fearlessness. So this mudra is very simply, you take your right hand with the fingers gently relaxed together, palm facing forward. You can do it with me right now. And the palm directs out, and the elbow is kind of just relaxed towards your side, shoulders relaxed. And use this mudra practice, Abhaya mudra, when you chant the Hari Om breath. I suggest you do it every day. Sing that Hari Om breath a dozen times with this mudra. And what this does to your subtle energies is quite profound. It actually helps you drop into the subtle energies in a very powerful way. So try this practice at home. I'll add it for you as a little bonus. And then write to me and let me know how it goes. You can always email me your questions, your anything at hello@alicialyndiaz.com. Or if you're watching this on the recording, you can share your experience below the video. I would love to hear. Working with those subtle energies is just so profound. Helps you really feel safe in your body, and especially this one, the mudra of fearlessness. So enjoy that practice. Okay, so it's also important. I like doing these practices as a community here. It builds our connection to each other to practice in this way. And then if you're hopefully joining live each month, you'll have, we'll be able to build on these practices together, and you'll have some time. You do these practices that we just did, all the breathwork practices and mudra practice, and just a moment of silent contemplation. Do them every day, because what this does, and I promised you one of the things we would talk about is, well, our three kind of bullet points for today. One is the three pillars of transforming trauma and feeling safe in the body. And the three pillars are, there's a biological pillar where you very much need to learn how to entrain your body to live in accordance with the cycles and the rhythms of nature. And you do that through digestion. You do that through how you feed your body, what you feed your body. You do that through honing in your circadian rhythms. And especially if you're having sleep disturbances, there's very specific ways to do that. And you do that through managing your vital energies. So there's this whole container of the biological pillar of transforming trauma and healing and feeling safe in the body. But then there's a whole psychological emotional pillar. That's pillar 2. And pillar 3 is the spiritual pillar. And this is where the spiritual pillar of health and well-being is what's left out in most healing modalities and most natural medicine protocols. People still relate to the substances of this material, physical earth as the thing that's going to save them or heal them or do the work. But we are not of this physical material earth. Everything in the physical material reality is constantly fluctuating and change, and is going through these cycles of birth, life, and death. So everything returns back to the earth, Everything material and physical returns back to the earth and has an end, and these cycles continue. And so the only aspect of us, like that's the only thing we can be sure about in this life, is the ending of it at some point, in the ending of the physical reality. And so this spiritual pillar is the only aspect that is actually eternal and ongoing, because energy can't be created or destroyed. Our soul has an eternality to it. It is all knowing, all expansive, all pervasive, and it is an emanation from the divine. And so it is an exact replica and contains everything that the divine contains, but it also has taken with it these impressions and imprints of energies in its subtle body. And that's what then manifests into our physical forms. So we can't relate to substance and physical material things as our source of security and shelter, because they're inherently part of those cycles of ending. So we must take shelter in that which is true shelter, which is what is eternal, which is the spiritual part of ourselves, which is the divine aspect of ourselves. And so when it comes to very deeply and thoroughly healing, it's all a remembering, reconfiguring, reconnecting with these lost aspects of ourself. And the spiritual aspect of ourself tends to get cloaked. It gets cloaked by trauma. It gets cloaked by a nervous system that has tension. It gets cloaked by these misperceptions that have come because of imprints in intergenerational traumas, or early childhood traumas, or any type of imprint and influence. That's the nature of living in this world. But the North Star, the foundation of all healing, comes back to that energy, that divine energy, which created you, which keeps your very heart beating every single moment of the day and night, which is responsible for all of your internal processes, all that wisdom, all that you don't even have to think about, everything, the millions and billions and trillions of processes that are keeping you alive in this existence. These are all the divine aspect. And to reconnect with that part of you, that part, that birth that created you and that keeps you alive, is the part that heals you, is the part that rewires these imprints and traumas. And so this is the keystone to healing. And most of Ayurveda as it's practiced today in the modern world has even lost this piece. I feel very fortunate that I got to study with a teacher who is a very pure lineage holder of the spiritual aspect of Ayurveda, and really emphasize this piece. Forever indebted to him. And my mentors that have come since him that are Ayurvedic doctors as well. But this piece, so connecting with this piece, first thing in the morning, connecting with the divine eternal self, the source of your soul, is the first and foremost practice for you to dive into each morning. And because we are in these bodies, we are connected to the material rhythms of nature in such a beautiful way. But these circadian rhythms that follow the sun each day, our hormones, our neurotransmitters, our digestive enzymes, follow the cycles of the sun. So when the sun starts to peak over the horizon, our consciousness starts to revert out of the darkness and into the light of the day. and we wake up, we are infused with energy, and that energy increases and increases, and the digestive enzymes to digest food increase and increase in that circadian rhythm. And then as the sun sets, our bodies release melatonin and our digestive capacity goes down. Our bodies release melatonin and we start to feel heavy and sleepy. And our energy goes from outward moving into inward moving. So that's the brief overview of that daily circadian rhythm and how we are inherently a part of these rhythms in nature. Now, if we look at every aspect of each of us are a microcosm to the macrocosm of life. So in the same way that the little microcosm of the daily cycle is the same or juxtaposed on top of the annual seasonal cycle. So the early morning is like the early spring. The nighttime is like the winter. The early morning is the early spring. Midday is summer. So when the sun is the highest in the sky, this is like the season of summer over several months. And then the fall is dusk, and the fall turns into winter again. So daytime turns into nighttime again. So daily cycle, 24 hours, annual cycle, 365 days. Take that macrocosm out over the course of your whole lifetime. And early childhood is early morning, is early spring. And then adulthood is the brightness of the day and the summer. It's when our energy is the most outward. We're doing, we're being, we're serving the world, we're getting stuff done. And then that energy wanes towards the end of life. Energy starts to move back in towards the spiritual realms, and body decomposes through that winter of the lifespan. So when we're looking to heal and to spark that intelligence within, because if you're still alive and in this session with me, that intelligence is alive and awake in every cell of your body. But it needs a director. It needs some encouragement. It needs to be focused on, just like when you're building a fire in the winter in your fireplace, or at a bonfire when you're camping in the summer. Those embers go down. And if you want to keep the fire alive, you've got to add a little more kindling. You've got to feed it. You've got to coax it. You've got to encourage it. And so if you're having pain, poor digestion, foggy mind, low energy, something about the internal fires, the internal intelligences in the cells, in the organs, has dipped a little low. Does that make sense? And so what we need to do is coax it, re-spark it, reignite it, add a little bit of kindling, add a little bit of nutrients, give it something to feed on, give it something to brighten up. And the first way to do that is through this spiritual pillar. Early morning, rising with the sun. Of course, that means you have to get a good night's sleep. And if we can talk about that, but just understand this conceptually. Rising with the sun, sparking that intelligence, and doing these practices that we just did together at the beginning of this session. It will change your life if you just commit to it. You can light a candle to help spark that flame of remembrance. Light a candle and do the 3-part breath, do the humming breath, do the Hari Om breath chant, mantra chant with your mudra. Do that breath a little bit more intensely if you need to wake up, but do the breath work. Connect with the divine energies. Say some prayers from your lineage in the way that you connect with the divine the most easily in your heart, or just have a heartfelt practice of gratitude. Something that helps you connect with that is setting the stage, setting the foundation, just like the springtime, just like that early childhood. You are rewriting in your being the foundation of health, well-being, peacefulness, connection to self, connection to your center. So first big remembrance, note to self, do these practices each and every morning. Okay? Questions. Rebecca asked, can we use our left hand if the right hand doesn't easily stay open? Or not worry, just try to open right hand. So better to use the right hand, even if it doesn't stay open all the way. Just try to get the palm to face forward. And the only reason being, I suppose, the right side of the body is the solar side of the body, and so that energy is connecting in a certain way, circulating it in a certain way. Usually the left hand goes up, so the palms face down, fingers face down rather, palm still faces forward or up, and it's down on your lap. And that helps direct energy because the solar energy moves outward from you and the lunar energy is receiving. And so if someone didn't have a limb on one side, I would still say to either to do just the one that you can, or you just use your mind's eye and imagine the energy extending from you in this way. So if it doesn't stay open, that's okay. But just holding the hand up in this direction helps with the energy movement. Thank you for asking, Rebecca. Okay, so because we started with the pillars, let's continue on with the pillars. So the first pillar I gave you, so these are the 3 pillars of transforming trauma and feeling safe in the body. Pillar number 1, I just gave you, we started with the spiritual pillar. And then I gave you a practical exercise to establish that pillar for yourself each and every day. Okay, now you set the stage in the early morning. You do the breath practice, you do a sound practice, and you do the soothing mantra practice. Now you don't just, walk away from your thing and then forget about it the rest of the day. Your intention now for the whole day is to continue to come back to that as often as possible and to catch yourself when you're not doing it. Meaning, at some point during the day, as you start to move about your work and interactions with people and everything that you're engaged in, the tendency is going to be to go unconscious and revert back to old patterns of breathing shallow, holding your breath, feeling contracted, potentially, if there's any disorders that you're experiencing due to trauma, like disassociation or PTSD, or you have like triggers from the environment, it's going to be especially important that you lay the foundation in the morning and that you have tools to revisit. Ultimately, it's very important to get to the root of what's happening in your being, in the body, whether there's a hypervigilance or what's the root of the disassociation or the PTSD or whatever's happening for you. You want to get to the root in a safe way and work with someone one-on-one that can help you transmute that can help you reprocess that can help you access that and transform that in a very refined and effective way. So that's super important. But this pillar perspective, this spiritual pillar, is we want to be walking in the divine presence and operating in the divine presence as often as we can throughout the entire day, which means constantly redirecting the mind to it. So this is where we start to bridge into the mental emotional pillar. So first and foremost, the nature of the mind. The nature of the mind is to consume. The nature of the mind is to wander crazily and consume. It's ravenous. It has a ravenous appetite. And that's not to make the mind wrong. It's just to understand the nature of the mind and to feed it in alignment with what your goals are. So the mind will constantly try to consume. It's going to constantly be looking for engagement. If your go-to engagement is to scroll on the phone, to look at your email, to look to external influences of support, make sure each of those influences are helping you achieve your higher goal, which is redirecting back to the spiritual pillar, to the divine self, and to the source of true peace, calm, healing, serenity, and true connection to your heart. And otherwise, the mind will constantly be fabricating things to chew on. So it will create scenarios. It will create fake conversations with people in your head. It will play out things from the past and feed you with regret and guilt and shame and doubt and second guessing yourself, or it will be projecting outward and be angry and frustrated and offended. And this is the nature of our ego, our mind. It's very weak and it needs all these things, and it's constantly chewing, and it's creating our own demise. It's creating our own ill health, because what happens is we blend with the mind. We think we are the mind. We think we are these fluctuations, these chatterings. We think we are these emotions. We think we are these fears. We think these other people or these other scenarios that we fabricate in our mind are true and real. And most of the time they're not. They're distortions, they're shadows of the reality. And so this is where this pillar of emotional and psychological well-being is so important, because just imagine the physiological response that happens in your body when you see a child laughing, like this pure little baby just smiling and laughing. What happens in your body when you imagine that? Right? Now, what happens in your body when you see an animal hit on the side of the road? Oh, like it like hurts your stomach, or at least it does mine. Any other animal lovers out there? When you see an animal, right? What happens in your body? So these impressions, these thoughts, right? Your thoughts directed to something, a certain thing. What is this feeling? This feeling is also a biological feeling. It's like a physiological cascade of chemicals that happen in your body, some of which make you feel sick to your stomach, some of which make you feel anxious and fearful, some of which make you feel warm and fuzzy, soft and open and receptive. So this is the nature of the mind. Now, every thought you have, every experience you had, every imprint that you have, it all impacts your physiology. And so we must learn how to prioritize directing our physiology through our thoughts, through what we feed our mind, and through how we direct it, because the cells in your body follow the leadership of what you're focused on. And so if you're feeling down, there's a real thing that's happening in there. Now, what I'm starting to talk about here starts to border into, just think positive and everything should be okay. Well, that's not true either. Let me refine this conversation now one level deeper, okay? So it's true, the nature of the mind must be corralled. So you must be the trainer of the mind, and you want to train the mind from the first pillar, the spiritual self, the God within, the God inside and outside, the divine aspect, because this is the only source of truth and true healing. So a relationship, first and foremost, with the divine self, and we want to bring and fortify that higher soul self into the subconscious so that the divine is directing the mind as much as possible. But when you do that, it's going to bring up everything that's unlike it. And they're all going to be vying for your attention. So what happens in the case of trauma, especially early childhood imprints, when the mind is developing, is there's different aspects of ourself that become fragmented. So you have this whole, I call it the inner kingdom. You have this whole inner kingdom within you, and you need this inner kingdom to be working cohesively along under the leadership of the divine self. And if it's not, there's problems. And those problems can manifest as physical pain complexes, dis-ease, and imbalances, or they can be, emotional distraughtness, various psychological challenges, imbalances. No negative connotation here, just saying there's different ways that this manifests. And it all is due to these fragmented aspects of ourself. Now, there's layers of the fragmentation that happen. The parts of us that have been really deeply hurt, traumatized, or have not had their needs met as a child, and then had to learn how to cope. Those parts that are hurt are the most buried. We call them exiles. They're exiled, they're buried, and they're kind of encapsulated in the recesses of your subconscious. And what has developed in the more conscious place are essentially protective parts. So they're parts of you that have become capable and protective so that you never have to feel that hurt again. And they will take over and maybe make you a really ambitious student or a really hard worker. And there are parts like that take over and try to give you a better life and be productive and make a better life. There are also parts that are trying to protect your buried hurt parts that might be self-destructive as well. So this is where addiction comes from, And there could be even workaholic tendencies or substance abuse of some type, just some type. These are coping mechanisms. So to try to help you keep your focus on some other, and then the hurt gets more and more buried. Now, all of these parts, I hope this is making sense so far, but all of these parts are within you. And especially the most buried, exiled parts, these are the parts of you that actually hold the strings of your physiology. Now, to bring it back to Ayurveda, your digestive system, which is your central digestive fire, is responsible for the digestion, absorption, and assimilation of nutrients. It derives energy and nutrients and building blocks of new tissues from the food that you consume and turns it into energy and building blocks of a new body as cells are dying off and new ones are replacing them. And so we all are aware of that physical aspect, right? This is all the pillars again. So that physical process is happening, but your digestion is not only responsible for the absorption, assimilation of nutrients and transformation into energy. Your digestion is also responsible for the metabolism of everything you've ever thought, felt, seen, witnessed, experienced, every imprint that comes in through your five senses, everything you see, everything you hear, everything you taste, you touch, everything you smell is all digested by the subtle energies of that fire. Everything you've ever thought, experienced, all of your past memories and emotional reactions to those memories. So we all know when our computer has too many programs and windows open and the software doesn't get updated, what happens? It's slow and sluggish and it shuts down, right? Same thing happens after years, decades of unmetabolized experiences, especially those that were very acutely intense, whatever reason. We have to come into right relationship in our experience. Now, that's not just consciously, it's deep in the subconscious in the body, because there's times, and if you've ever practiced yoga, especially yin yoga or something where you yoga practice where you hold a pose for a very long time, or sometimes if you've ever just gotten body work or massage work, you'll start crying for no reason just because you're holding a hip opener or because there's this knot in your back that the practitioner works out, or even more subtle, craniosacral, moves the fluid, cerebrospinal fluid, in just such a way that it floods into an area that's been stagnant for years. And now all of a sudden, this memory flashes across your awareness, or this feeling of terror, or this feeling of rage comes through your body, or the tears just show up and you're like, I have no idea where I'm crying, but this thing is happening. It's very mysterious the way that it gets revealed to us, but the body stores these things. Ayurveda says that unprocessed memories or unprocessed traumas crystallize into disease in the organs, in the bodily tissues. It forms crystals that create stagnation, that block the pranic channels. And if the pranic channels are blocked, energy can't flow through, move through. the way that it needs to bring life force energy to all of the different organs. So things start working slowly, more sluggishly. We have challenges and our health gets impaired. So in all of that, I guess, bringing it back to the pillars. So in all of that, our digestion is also tied to these pillars. And when we have these parts of us that have held on to repressed memories and have not yet created right relationship with this experience, there's a part of us that ends up identifying with that experience and becomes clouded by the experience of that part of us. And that part of us takes over and clouds our consciousness in such a way of, if the trauma, say for example, if the trauma was inferred or received by a direct caregiver, someone who you're supposed to trust the most, then in relationship with the people that are closest to you, that part of you will take over when you least expect it. And you'll be like, and you'll react towards that person in such a way. And then you'll get mad that that person's not engaging with you in a loving way. But you didn't realize that there's this subtle energetic that hasn't been addressed inside of yourself, that's manifesting as physical symptoms. It's manifesting as interpersonal symptoms. It's manifesting as a general anxiousness to the world around you. There's a general distrust of life because the caregiver there was distrust, or there was distrust built into that scenario. So the digestive fire needs help. We need to feed it things light and easy to digest, or we need to go through a process of fasting, modified fasting, to reset it altogether so that it actually can digest our food. Because if it's burdened by the energetic stuff that hasn't been digested, then it can't possibly digest the food you're eating, no matter how pristine and clean it seems to be. Even if it seems to be, the perfect for your body type and for the season, your body will still have a hard time digesting it if there's unresolved stuff from the past. So let me pause. Any questions before we continue? My throat's getting dry from all this chatting. It seems we laid a good foundation on the 3 pillars. I believe there's so much more we can dive into each one. And I think perhaps in upcoming workshops we'll dive into each of the pillars in more detail and more deeply. But today I wanted to give an overview of these. But I think perhaps with the time that we have for today and making sure I'm hitting all the points, I want to speak briefly steps to reverse chronic illness through this approach, through this 3-pillar approach, and give you a little bit of an overview of how that works. And also, I want to encourage you, any of you who are on here live, or if you're watching the recording, you can always email me, hello@alicialyndiaz.com, or comment below the video. And if you're here and you want to just send a private message, you can do that in the chat, send it directly just to me. But I'd really love to hear what specifically brought you to this workshop. What is your goal, or the thing that you're most challenged with, whether it comes to your physical health or your healing of trauma, or something, there might be something physiological, or I'm sorry, psychological or emotional going on. So if you would write to me, I really want to make sure that I'm serving you well in these workshops, and that I want to hear from you. So please email me, please write to me. Let me know what your biggest challenge is in this arena, what brought you to the trauma healing and Ayurveda classes. All right, let's get into the steps. And then I have a journal exercise for you to do at home. And then we'll wrap up for today. Excuse me. Okay, so when it comes to, oh, I'm so glad. I'm hearing in the messenger that what I'm addressing is what brought you here. So I'm so happy to hear that. Thank you for your feedback. And I really, really, really welcome all of your feedback and letting me know. So steps. These steps have been notoriously hard for me to label, but I've somehow labeled them. So after doing this work in a one-on-one practice for a little over a decade, I started seeing how to lay the foundation for this healing work, and then what were the actual phases that really helped people transform in a way that it completely radically changed how they engage with their life in the outside world. Some of you are even on this call right now, clients that I've worked with, and it brings me great joy and delight to see how you're engaging with the world around you in a way that you really feel safe and peaceful within, and that you've been able to really melt away a lot of that tension, anxiety, and the symptoms that were ailing you before. Such an honor and a pleasure. So thank you for your direct messages. I'm seeing some come through. So sorry for my distraction momentarily. So awesome. So there are 3 general phases, and these phases are broken down into inner and outer. So when I say inner, there's this whole world, there's a whole inner kingdom of uncharted territory that each of you have inside of your inner being. And in this inner being, in this inner kingdom, you have all of these healing capacities, all of these characters that are very supportive and wise, and that can guide you and support you, and you've yet to meet them. And so there are beings that live inside of you that are always a part of you, here to guide you. And they're very, very specific. And there are parts of you that want to be expressed. And then there are parts of you inside that inner world, in that inner kingdom, that are the exiles, that are the protective parts, that are the parts of you that are self-deprecating, and the parts of you that are self-critical, and the parts of you that are really challenged by certain things and that need the support. And so when I say the inner realms, these are the parts you have yet to meet. And then in the outer world, and so sorry, these are the parts that you have yet to meet, and that are able to work as a cohesive whole to bring about physical transformation on a real tangible level. And there's very specific processes for meeting all these aspects of yourself and cultivating conversation, learning from them, and bringing healing to the parts that have been fragmented and exiled. Then there's the outer realms. This is the area of understanding a little bit more of your personal doshic type, your psychobiological makeup, your unique body type, and how your unique body type has different needs in different seasons of life, in different seasons of the year. And it's creating right relationship with your diet and nutrition in a way that's really going to support Agni. It's about utilizing certain herbal preparations and things that might support the detoxification of the cells and the pathways, bringing energy into areas that have been stagnant, helping to digest the traumas on the energetic, emotional level. These are setting up your rhythms in the external world with the circadian rhythms of optimizing sleep, how you function with your vital energies in all these ways. So, and how you engage with the external world. So, the 3 phases that I'm going to give you right now of healing are work internally and externally. And in order for you to have transformation and change, you want to affect that transformation both on the inner realms and in the outer realms. So the 3 phases for healing trauma are called, I'll give you the 3 first, are called awaken. The second phase is called clear. And the third phase is called connect. So in this first phase of awaken, what you're doing first is on the inner realms, creating a connection with the divinity within and meeting all of the different characters inside of you that are resourced, meaning full of emotional resourcefulness, magical abilities, the parts of you that are resourced, robust, your cheerleaders, your supporters. And it's connecting all of that to your higher connection. So there's a process of that's a guided sequence of essentially meditations that build this foundation within and help you connect in that way. So it brings the divine consciousness into the subconscious mind, makes that connection, and then I walk you through creating connection with all of the various archetypes that within that are resourced. And this is all part of the inner realms of the awaken phase. The outer realm of the awaken phase is all about creating safety in the nervous system. So you're awakening that spark of energy, of intelligence within your physical body, as well as the inner realms. So you're awakening the spark of intelligence in your every cell, in the digestive organs, in every aspect of your waking and sleeping life. And you're mainly focused on creating safety in the nervous system, regulating the nervous system. The first phase is all around deeper and deeper practices, similar to the things we do at the beginning of this workshop. But there's a series of 7 breathwork practices that my teacher have passed down to me that really transform the nervous system into this state of calm and peacefulness and restoration. So it creates a safety in the nervous system. And as you'll see in your journaling exercise for today, this is the first phase, is this memo to all the parts of you that all parts of you are welcome here. All parts of you, we're sending love and creating this home base of safety, sending it out to all parts of you so that they feel welcome in your innermost kingdom, which is in your conscious awareness, which is very important. And we can't force any parts of us to come back to center. We can't just go digging for them, looking for them, and being, impatient with them, like, come on, just get back over here. I need to move on with my life. I need to get better already. That's not the process. The process that unfolds is one of planting a seed in your garden and watering it every day and letting the sun shine upon it every day. Nature's going to have this, its course, if you sow the seeds properly and if you maintain the garden properly, weed out, some of the misdirections of the mind. And it's a process of ripening. So phase one, the awaken phase, is a process of ripening, which allows for phase two to unfold. Now, phase two, we call the clear phase. And if phase one is done thoroughly and appropriately, which usually takes several months under the regular one, like individualized guidance of a qualified person, by the time you get to phase two is ripe and easy. It's just like, you don't eat the banana when it's still green, because it's going to be astringent and it's not going to be as nourishing. Those sugars aren't ready, right? The same thing. You don't go into your garden and pluck all the squash blossoms, although they are kind of nice, but you won't get the full fruit of the zucchini and the squash if you pull all the blossoms. So in the same way, you have to be really, really thorough with that phase one in order for the clear phase to be ripe. Now, in the clear phase, what happens is you have created enough of a terrain in your body of safety in the nervous system by doing the practices every day and by going into the inner realms and doing the inner work, that the exiled parts of you start to feel safe enough to come to the surface, to be reclaimed, to share their deepest pain stories. And then there are really specific processes for facilitating that healing. It's also called the clear phase because you actually end up shedding and letting go of these things that truly are no longer serving you, that have really been holding you back, that have been keeping you in these your physiology in these patterns, locked in these patterns of pain, of tightness, of chronic illness, of stubborn symptoms, of moving, changing pain, of various things. And so the clearing phase is actually clearing out and rewiring those aspects and those things. And then that gives way to phase three, which, when phase one is done correctly, phase two happens very naturally, but still is very nuanced and must be dealt with in a refined way, because as you meet these different characters, there's often lots of different voices that will bombard the inner realms. And it's really important that you hold the perspective that all parts are welcome, even the parts of you that you are so frustrated with, that you think are your enemies. Because the parts of you that you might think are an enemy, they're afraid of their death. So they start to take over more, and they cloud your ability to actually bring the healing to the place it needs to go. And so there's a very refined way. It's very important during this phase for you to have a clear mirror, counselor, support, therapist, someone who can help you discern these different aspects, so that you're able to really bring healing to the places that need it. And then that gives way. So phase one and two done well will lend itself to phase three, which is connect. I call it connect. And that's really where you've awakened this dormant potential, you've created all this safety, you've realigned your rhythms, physically, mentally, emotionally, then you've cleared what no longer serves you. And now that you've made all that space, it's very natural to connect with your true self. So in this phase, you really embody more of your true self, takes residence in your everyday being, in your everyday interactions, awake life. You start to receive um, guidance and insights and creative impulses that were never there before. You start to feel more energized and strong in your body. The fatigue and the digestive troubles, they're all just like a memory of the past. You're able to eat and enjoy food and feel energized by your meal, and you feel light, and you wake up in the morning and you feel bright and awake, and you have a general disposition of positivity that's not forced. You have a general disposition of contentment that is not dependent on the external world around you, on what's happening. There doesn't seem to be that dark cloud kind of following you around that causes your nervous system to go into a contraction, things like that. So the connect phase is really indicative that you did the first two phases thoroughly and well. And then these three phases are when you learn all the nuanced tools of each phase and how to apply each one, then now you always have those tools. And there's this cyclical kind of spiraling that happens where there might be some more awakening that you have to do and some more clearing that you have to do after you arrive at the connect phase, but it becomes a refinement, and the being continues to stretch and expand as and more of the real you starts to inhabit your body more and more and more. The disassociation or the anxiousness or the fearfulness or the agitation, again, there's like less room for it to live in your being. And you just start to notice, like, oh, I used to be afraid to go out in nature, or I would just mostly stay home. And now I feel like safe and free, to go out for this big, beautiful hike and to go camping, or whatever the thing is that was, holding you back. I'm just reminded of one particular story here. But yeah, so these three phases are always best guided by someone who understands the workings of the inner realms as well as the refinements in the outer realms. So this is why I love to marry the Ayurveda and the kind of inner therapeutic counseling work for the inner realms, because the two of them, the inner and the outer combined, creates just a very thorough, sweet space where there's no real distinction between the two, although I'm making a distinction now, but they all become woven in themselves with each other, meaning your actions in your external world are born from the beautiful connections to your internal world and the fortification of those internal aspects of yourself and parts of yourself. So it all is very, very special. And it's no matter what has ailed you from the past, no matter what your story is, no matter what pains have stayed with you since childhood, since earlier years of your life, no matter what it is, no matter how much you fear it's irreversible, or fear that some part of you is too broken to recover, um, none of that's true. It's all healable. And I've seen some of the most complicated, challenging, complex situations that no doctor or practitioner could figure out, and people going through so many dead ends and so much turmoil and frustration just resolve when they go through these 3 phases and learn the inner tools um, of this beautiful Ayurvedic and emotional, psychological, spiritual healing. It's quite profound and so natural because your being is naturally oriented towards wholeness and this experience. So I would love to give you this journaling exercise now that you can take home with you. I welcome your questions as well. And I also want you to know that since we're in this conversation, I would be doing you a disservice to not let you know that I do have a few spots opening up in my one-on-one practice. So if this conversation is calling to you and you just want to explore what the program is about and more details of what that would look like working together one-on-one, I'd be more than happy to connect with you, and you can just book a time on my calendar. We'll meet one-on-one, and then I can hear your story and give you perspective, personalized perspective on what you might be dealing with and what are the next steps that you should be taking specifically. And then if it seems like a good fit to work together, I can tell you about what that looks like. But mostly, mostly I just want you to know that I do have a few spaces opening up for this new year, and that it would be an honor and pleasure to work with you if you feel inclined. So I actually didn't even plan to tell you that in this class, believe it or not. And I have to get the link to send it to you. I'll email with the recording, my calendar link. So I'll put that in the Zoom here. So take home journal. I'm not going to walk through the entire thing just because I want you to have plenty of time to write, but I'll give you like the prompt and just the first couple minutes of starting to free flow, and the size once we wrap up and close out session. And so make sure you have your journal there, right? And I'm just looking at the Q&A over on the chat. All right. Let me give you this. I put a link in the chat for my calendar if any of you want to explore one of those one-on-one spots in my practice. It's just calendly.com/Alicia Lynn /45-MIN. I'll put it below the video and in the email as well. It's just a 45-minute exploration call. Alrighty, here's the exercise. So this exercise is called All Parts Are Welcome Here. So just write in your journal, all parts are welcome here, ! So this is an exercise. It's a little bit of a visualization and a free writing exercise that's going to help you welcome all these different aspects of yourself. And in this, you will start to create safety in the inner realms. And then, like I said, coupled with doing the practices at the beginning of our session, doing those first thing every morning also creates a sense of safety, because these inner parts of you come to rely on that moment of cohesiveness where they all get to connect in prayer and in resonating in the sound vibrations in the breath, and it allows you to come home to yourself. So all the parts of you, like with a child, you don't just tell the child, hey, I'm here for you, and then you never play with the child, feed the child, visit the child again, right? No, of course not. I have to show up every single day to back my word with that child that I'm here for you. I'm going to say it with my words in this exercise. I'm here for you. You're all welcome here. But then I'm going to show up every single day and actually exemplify that I am, in fact, here for you in a nourishing, meaningful way. And that includes preparing nourishing meals, feeding you the things you want, letting you rest when you need to rest, letting you move when you need to move, and singing to you and giving you an outlet for expression, right? All those things. So this exercise is the declaration, but each of you get to do the work every single day to show up in response. All parts are welcome here. So you start by taking a couple deep breaths and tuning your energy within, and begin by giving this general offer to all the aspects of you. And you can offer some words of encouragement and love, and just say, Om or Hari Om. Love and blessings to you all. I'm here. I wish to know you. I wish to love you. I wish to provide you even more support. I wish to meet those of you who I haven't met yet. And I want you to know that I'm here for you in a loving, supportive way. So in order to help you, or I want to help any of you that need help, but to do that, I need to know you. I need to meet you. So I welcome you here in my heart, in my inner kingdom. And you might also let them know, because certain aspects of you who have been hiding for a long time might really want to rush to your awareness. So you can just let them know and say, if you overwhelm me, I can't help you. So it's okay to let them know that. And so that you feel safe going into the inner realms. So I make this request, please be here with me rather than taking me over. Please be here with me. And when you're ready, let me know who you are. When you're ready, let me know who you are. And I will write this down. When you're ready, let me know who you are. So, and then take your pen. I'm going to give you 2 full minutes right now to start to free write. And write down any thoughts, feelings, sensations in your body, anything that you hear, that you notice, like you hear or you see in your mind's eye, or that you sense. So just any imprints that come up right now as you welcome these parts. Let me know who you are. When you're ready, I'm here. Let me know who you are. Go ahead and begin your free writing now. finish up your last thought? All right. I hope those 2 minutes allowed for more than you had expected. And you can also please continue this exercise after we wrap up today. Of course, if you're watching this recording, you could just hit pause and keep writing. Okay, beautiful. So yeah, it's a really special moment to start to go within and welcome all the different parts of you. And you can send them that message as often as possible every day, and spend a few moments, even just 5 minutes or less, free writing, just like you just did. And this is just helps with a regular internal check-in. And in future sessions, we can also discuss how to discern between different parts and give more examples, and also help you know when you're blended with a part versus witnessing a part. So when you're witnessing a part, that means you're centered in self, in true self. And then when you're blended with a part, you become the part, and the part's thoughts are acting like you believe them as truth. And it's when if you're feeling dysregulated or emotional in any way, usually you're like blended with a part. And so you want to be able to constantly come back to self so that you can witness the part, honor the part, hear the part. Sometimes you'll still have to experience the emotions of the part, of course, or like the part will use your body and your pathways to emote and express. But we want to be sure that we're creating distinction between self and the parts, because self is not a part. Self is your true self. Self is the divine part of you. And then we have parts that we want to develop relationships with, learn from, hear from, and understand. And what this does is it brings wholeness back to our physiology. It brings wholeness back to our digestive capacity. It brings wholeness back to our relationships and our way of interacting with and being in the world. So all very, very important. So I welcome any other questions you have, or I'd love to hear if you just have a question. You can write it in the chat. You can unmute yourself or raise your hand. Or if you want to just share what that experience was like in doing that journaling exercise, be happy to open the floor to any of you now before we sign off for today. I know this has been mostly me talking at you, so I understand that it's challenging to switch right into that interactive mode at the end. Yeah.
Just wanted to say thank you.
But a lot of you actually wrote in direct message to me, and so I super appreciate that. So if there's no immediate shares, please still email me, hello@alicialyndiaz.com. Let me type that in here too, so you can see the spelling. Email me your questions, your topics, after you review your notes from today's sessions. What are the things that you want to dive into deeper, that you want to learn more about specifics? I will gear our monthly first Wednesday workshops to your questions and requests, and my intention is to dive deeper into the pillars with more specifics in each session, and I'll continue to engage in practices with you at the beginning of each session and the end of each session. So we'll do a little chanting as we close out today. And I'm so grateful for you all joining. I will be posting this recording on my YouTube channel. I think my YouTube channel is just Alicia Lynn Diaz, if you want to look that up. If you have not registered for the live workshops, if you're watching this as a recording, you can go to my website. I'll link it below this video too, but alicialyndiaz.com, and then click the button that says trauma healing, and that will give you the registration. And for those of you who are wanting or want to explore the possibility of one-on-one support in the therapeutic session setting to go through this process together, my calendar is open for 2 weeks in February, as I have a few spots available for new clients, and my Calendly link is there for you all. Let me put it back in the chat, and I will also link it below this video as a recording. So if you want to discuss one-on-one more about your personal situation, I'd be happy to provide insight to you. And so let us close out. Thank you for your thank yous, and just such an honor to be here with all of you. So we'll just chant our final closing chant, which is Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu, reminding us and all beings to that the divine energy that we are, the divine love that's inside of us and all around us, and constantly supporting us in every way possible. So we'll chant Om together 3 times, and Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti, peace. Take a deep breath in, exhaling with Om 3 times. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Shanti, love and peace, blessings to you all. I'm so excited to see you all next month and to hopefully speak to some of you one-on-one between now and then. Okay, lots of love. Talk to you soon. Bye.